Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Matt Welch from Reason TV here at the Denver State Capitol. Denver is the site this week of the Democratic National Convention. I'm here at the Capitol with a state senator from Colorado, a Democrat turned Republican turned Democrat, and you'll correct me where I'm wrong, Senator Bob Hagedorn. He's been in the legislature here for 24 years. Tell us a little bit about your journey from Reagan Democrat to Republican to Democrat again.
Well, actually, it was Democrat to Reagan Democrat / Republican back to the Democratic Party. And part of it is that I've always been very independent, and I've had problems back in the 70s realizing that the Democrats seemed to be a little more liberal than I was. And so I figured that, I kind of liked some of the stuff that Reagan was saying, but more so I didn't like where the direction of Jimmy Carter's presidency was taking this country and the liberals in the Democratic Party. So I figured, well, I wasn't doing anything, might as well become a Republican. And unfortunately, I got engaged in at a time when there seemed to be an assault on individual rights and freedoms just beginning in the Republican Party, starting with a woman's right to choice. And so very quickly I realized that I probably didn't exactly fit in the Republican Party either. And but anyway, I wasn't that engaged at the time in the 80s in politics and kind of dropped out. And then late 87 finally decided that, well, the Republicans were just moving into too far of a direction from where I was, and at least I knew where the Democrats were, and I felt that I could probably stomach the liberals better than I could the arch conservatives.
Talk a little bit about your feeling about sort of Bush administration and even the putative McCain administration record or approach towards individual liberty issues that you seem to care about.
Well, one of the things that basically since I first campaigned for the legislature and I was first elected to the state house is that I felt my role as much as anything else were protecting my constituents' rights, liberties, and freedoms. That has always been my number one priority. And regardless of whether they're Democrat initiated or Republican initiated, is that I'm not a guy that's keen on seeing any of our rights, liberties, and freedoms taken away from us. And certainly I, like everybody else, was just devastated by 9/11. However, we compounded that tragedy with the Patriot Act. And we've seen a slow, I think, decline in our individual rights, liberties, and freedoms. Unfortunately, a lot of Americans seem to be willing to give up some of those for the idea of security. But then where do you draw the line with government? If you do not rein in government, government will continue to creep along. And pretty soon you can wake up one morning and, hey, you have no rights, liberties, or freedoms. And that's what my main concern is, certainly with, there's a Senator McCain who's running for the presidency in 2008 who seems to be a little different from the Senator McCain from 2000, kind of like the guy from 2000. But right now it looks like it's going to be another 4 years of another 8 years of the Bush administration, particularly slow deterioration of our individual freedoms, which, it still seems incredibly ironic considering it's the Republicans who historically you could kind of trust at times to protect your rights, liberties, and freedoms, but only in certain arenas, just like the Democrats, only in limited arenas.
Is there a sort of libertarian flavored backlash in the Mountain West, particularly against the Republican Party? You hear some sort of ballyhooed movement in that direction, but does it actually tangibly exist, do you think?
Well, I would say very much so. If you looked at the West, I think you will find that the West is easily more libertarian than the Midwest or the East. And one of the things is that I thought, for a long time, kind of the hallmark of particularly the Republican Party in Colorado was a real protection of individual freedoms. And I think that what we've seen now is that the Democrats, we have majorities in the House and Senate, as well as, of course, the governor. But we have we have Democrats in seats that have very well performing Republican numbers. But the problem is that the Republicans have nominated candidates who literally want to take away people's rights. I mean, very significantly, abortion rights is an area that resonates very well. And we have places like Jefferson County that, we hold the majority of state elected offices, House and Senate legislative offices in Jefferson County. Jefferson County should be predominantly Republican in terms of their representation down here. but they have chosen to go with, shall we say, evangelical Republican candidates, which infringes upon, I think, an overall level of respect for freedoms and in our rights. And so I think that the Republicans, by moving away from Barry Goldwater into this more evangelical direction, has definitely cost them support in the western states, because we appreciate individual rights, liberties, and freedoms. And Republicans have been sensitive to that and have enjoyed those rights. And now their own candidates are saying, well, we're going to take these away from you.
That's great. From the Denver State House, I'm with Senator Bob Hagedorn. This has been Matt Welch, Reason TV. Thank you very much.